The Post on Church Point Road in Gonzales would like to invite everyone to their newly renovated events hall, a beautiful 9,600 square foot facility that features a 5,500 square foot main hall and a separate 600 square foot conference room. Renters have access to our huge kitchen, large stage, tables, chairs, bar, and covered outdoor cooking. So plan your next wedding, party, conference, and more at The Post on Church Point Road in Gonzales.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
You could be driving.
Happy Honda Days are back for the most wonderful time of the year at Team Honda. The savings are high on every new Honda. And with our Buy Here, Sell Here program, you'll get top value for your trade. Happy Honda Days from Louisiana's #1 Honda dealer, Team Honda.
No one can stop me when I taste the feeling. Nothing could ever bring me down. Nothing could ever bring me down. Taste the feeling.
Hello and welcome as we start today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. Here's hoping all is well with you and yours in your world. Since the last opportunity we had to spend a little time with you roughly some 24 hours ago. We start today's show talking about COVID-19 and its impacts here in South Louisiana. Today, it is anticipated that as many as 350 teachers in East Baton Rouge Parish will not report for work today. The, quote, sick out is in response to the rise in COVID-19 cases across South Louisiana and our state in general. The East Baton Rouge Parish Association of Educators releasing a statement saying that, quote, this is the only way that we can have consistent education right now. Because of COVID, we have to do things differently. We just can't say, oh, well, we're going to send them in the building. We can no longer do that. Superintendent Cito Narcisse, I guess it's fair to say, recently installed superintendent, is not on board with this plan, as other educators are not as well, saying, quote, the only way that I would change to remote learning at this point in time for a particular school is if the staff is impacted. He went on to point out that while this, quote, sick out is planned for today, they plan to staff, the East Baton Rouge Parish Public School System does, all of their schools with certified individuals. Quote, we're going to have all certified staff that we have available go into the schools. We have coaches that are going to be going into schools. We have counselors who are supporting kids in other ways, going to have them report to class to support as well. Meanwhile, I mentioned other teacher groups are not on board with today's sick out. As a matter of fact, the East Baton Rouge chapter of the Associated Professional Educators of Louisiana and the East Baton Rouge Federation of Teachers are not endorsing the move. Quote, the superintendent has already stated that he's not going totally virtual. This statement, by the way, is attributed to Angela Reams Brown, president of the EBR Federation of Teachers. It continues, quote, so what happens on Thursday? What happens on Friday? What happens on Monday? Staying home one day will not solve the problem. I tend to agree in that regard. It is the group of individuals, demographically speaking, the least affected by COVID. And while I understand the concern of teachers, many of whom are borderline on the group most adversely affected, going back to virtual learning, I think, is going to be a last resort. Ultimately, the school board and the superintendent will be the one to make the call in that regard, and don't think that decision is going to be made anytime soon, unless, of course, we're talking about just an overwhelming increase of COVID cases reported, particularly in our schools. Meanwhile, the city of New Orleans announcing that as of 6 a.m. this morning, they have returned to the indoor mask mandate. This, obviously, likewise, is in conjunction with the rise in COVID cases reported in our state. The mask mandate had been lifted back in October, but that now falls by the wayside as, once again, folks in the Crescent City find themselves in the midst of a mask mandate, albeit only for indoor activities at this point. You would imagine, and rightfully so, if New Orleans does it, then in all likelihood there's the possibility that other cities will look at doing the same thing as well. Right now in the capital city, Mayor Sharon Weston Broome saying that she is not, although entertaining at the moment, she has no plans to reinstate a mask mandate here in East Baton Rouge. A statement from the mayor's office reads as follows. Mayor Broome has no plans at the present time to reestablish a mask mandate. However, it certainly remains an option, as she is staying in close contact with local hospitals and healthcare providers about the best practices we should all take during this current surge. Masks are required inside all city parish facilities, which covers a number of frequently traveled buildings in our city, including the Raising Cane's River Center. We will continue to consider additional mitigation steps for our community. In the meantime, we strongly encourage citizens to listen to their doctors, wear a mask, get vaccinated and boosted, and of course, stay at home if you're sick. The Omicron variant is very contagious and is having real impacts locally. It is something that, ironically, we've all become, I guess, used to at this point. We see the mask mandate installed. Later on, it's lifted. Next thing you know, back in place, lifted again, et cetera, et cetera. How many individuals strictly adhere to the mandate? I have no numbers in front of me one way or the other to quantify that. I will venture a guess, however, just based on observing people as I travel around the city between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, people are suffering mask fatigue. I don't think it's a stretch to say the circles that you matriculate in, you've probably seen the number of people strictly adhering to mask wearing get lower and lower and lower as time goes by. We still, many of us, don't have a concrete grasp on the true effectiveness of the masks, unless you're talking, you know, an N95 or something of that nature. And as a result, many people now have, as a result of the mask fatigue, simply gone on living their everyday lives. School systems all across the state are going to have to grapple with this. And as we get closer and closer into spring, obviously, more and more of you will be entertaining traveling to other cities. So, the word to the wise should be sufficient. Keep a box, container of them, if you will, in your car, because it appears, and I hope I'm not speaking prematurely, but it appears as though traveling from city to city to city, you may be subjected to one set of rules here, another there, a completely different set of rules over here. And of course, if you were a Boy Scout, and I would imagine a Girl Scout as well, we were taught to always, quote, be prepared. You don't know from day to day what city, what school, what governmental entity is going to require them. So, in hindsight, better to have and not need than to need and not have. Day to day, city to city, God only knows what sort of rules and regulations you will find yourself subjected to with COVID and masks. So, again, stick that box of them in the glove compartment, put them in a Ziploc bag, and that way, no matter where you go, you will always have one there at your disposal. We are coming up on our first break of the hour. When we come back, I want to talk about how criminals thrive on the indulgence of society. I was trying to remember, Marty, help me out, the first Batman movie or the second, when the phrase was uttered, criminals thrive on the indulgence of society. He's a Superman guy. Don't know anything about Batman. Oh well, thanks, Marty. The crux of the matter is, when people know consequences have been diminished or are completely overlooked, criminal activity will thrive. And right here in the capital city of the great state of Louisiana, all across our state for that matter, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So maybe, just maybe, we're approaching that point now where we're getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, particularly over repeat offenders. We've seen some pretty high profile ones here as of late, and there's now a move afoot to make sure we get these folks off our streets. Going to be a collective effort, a collaborative, if you will, law enforcement, judges, DAs, the whole nine. We'll talk about that after our first break of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show, only on the Pelican. Stay close.
Hi, I'm Bobby Yarborough with Manda Fine Meats. Here at Manda, we know what the folks of South Louisiana love. They love great flavored smoked sausage, delicious deli meats, and specialty items like boudin and andouille sausage. Manda Fine Meats has been providing these products since 1947. We produce them right here in Baton Rouge, so you know you're always getting the freshest product at your local grocery store. Manda Fine Meats. Taste the fresh local flavor in everything we make. Make it Manda every time.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent. Depend on us for service, for selection, for price. Get huge Whirlpool savings. Shop now and save on Whirlpool appliances throughout the store. Plus, experience our price match guarantee and ask about special financing.
You can depend on the know-how of people who live appliances every day.
Bolello's Furniture and Appliances, your dependable independent with nationwide buying power.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-778-4345. 800-778-4345.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to greystonecountryclub.com.
Welcome back to today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. In this segment, we usher in the topic, criminals thrive on the indulgence of society. Meaning, the old adage, when the cat is away, the mice will play. Think of it in these terms. If the person in charge where you work never shows up, never holds anyone accountable, how long do you think that business will continue to operate? Not long, right? The same is true for the criminal element. Individuals that engage in criminal behavior are arrested and then released or only held to a minimum of accountability. It's a pretty safe bet they're going to be what we call repeat offenders. If you've been tracking this ungodly rise in crime in the capital city, and this region for that matter, you're familiar with the fact that BRPD has been telling us for a while the people we arrest for crimes are individuals that we encounter over and over and over again. Many times, almost as soon as they're arrested, they're back out on the streets. And of course, with the advent of the pandemic, many courthouses were forced to close, trials postponed, and if memory serves correct, at last count there was a backlog of over 200 criminal trials in the capital city. So in an effort to try and get a handle on all of this, a group of individuals representing all aspects, district attorneys, judges, law enforcement, juvenile court judges as well, starting a series of meetings this week to find out what can be done to hold individuals accountable for the crimes they are accused of. Many people, when they first heard Chief Murphy Paul, Baton Rouge PD chief, come out and say, the problem we're seeing, the rise in crime, is due in large part to a small number of individuals that repeatedly engage in criminal conduct. Many people scoffed at that, saying, well, if that's the case, then we already know who to look for, arrest them, lock them up, problem solved. Well, COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench in all of that. Not being able to incarcerate people, not being able to guarantee them their constitutional right, by the way, to a speedy trial. And as a result, we look up and they're back on the streets. For example, just yesterday we talked about the juvenile burglary ring busted recently in Point Capee Parish. One of the individuals involved in this juvenile burglary ring was arrested about a month and a half ago, anywhere a month and a half to 2 months ago. Released after being arrested for burglary, put on an ankle monitor, and the very next day, this individual, wearing an ankle monitor, went out and committed more burglaries. Now, y'all please accept this in the spirit that it's given. Criminals are going to do what criminals are going to do. Pure and simple. That's why they are criminals. They're going to do what they're going to do, unless and until society demands accountability. Don't know how many of you noticed the story just yesterday that a burglary ring busted up here in Baton Rouge. An 18-year-old, part of this crew, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, was arrested for attempted second-degree murder and illegal use of weapons. Now, understanding full well the presumption of innocence. In this country, it is a God-given right that you are presumed innocent unless and until you have been proven guilty. This individual had not, as of yet, had his day in court. However, attempted second-degree murder, illegal use of a weapon, and while awaiting trial, taking part in a burglary ring. Now, conventional wisdom would say, 2 years ago you were arrested for attempted second-degree murder, illegal use of weapons. 2 years later, you're arrested on burglary charges. At some point, conventional wisdom would say, a reasonably intelligent person would say, you know what, I'm not very good at this criminal thing. I need to find another line of work. I mean, after all, in the last 2 years, I've ended up arrested twice. Maybe I should consider another line of work. Now, in an ideal world, that's how it would work. But as you well know, our world is far from ideal. So in the meantime, you and I, society, have to make sure that we have the mechanisms and the institutions in place to take care of people like this until the light comes on. Listen, y'all, I get it. I'm like you, conservative. I want my tax dollars spent wisely. But based on what we've witnessed in recent memory, and y'all please know, it pains me to say this, but based on what we know just in the recent past, we are selling ourselves short by not making sure we have adequate space to hold individuals that make no bones about the fact that they are either incapable or unwilling to live by the laws of a civilized society. For God's sake, y'all, this kid's going out with an ankle monitor on, committing burglaries. Now, who does that? Well, since you posed the question, I'll venture an answer. Someone who figures there's no accountability for their actions. I mean, you would have to think, all right, I got this ankle monitor on, whether they're monitoring me or not, if I get caught doing something that's against the law, it's really going to look bad for me when I go back in front of the judge again. The same holds true for here in Baton Rouge, the 18-year-old arrested, yet to go to trial for attempted second-degree murder and illegal use of weapons. While awaiting trial, you're out burglarizing vehicles. Now, for the bleeding hearts among us, well, Clarence, you got to understand that they're awaiting trial. They probably can't get a job because who's going to hire them? They really had no choice but to do that. I beg to differ, my friend. I beg to differ. I know any number of business owners in our state, and far more of them than not would give an individual a chance if they were honest and said, Mr. Employer, I made a stupid decision not long ago. I did something I should not have done. I got caught. I'm up for trial. Now, I can either try to benefit my own cause by obtaining a job, being gainfully employed, and stay out of trouble till I can get this all behind me. Any number of business owners would respect that. Why? Because they see an individual who is trying to do better. At the end of the day, again, accept this in the spirit that it's given. Some people you just cannot help. Try as you may. They are beyond that. And when we encounter these folks that are running rampant in our communities, we have the obligation, in no uncertain terms, to do whatever it takes to be sure they're held accountable. If we don't, these criminals will continue to thrive on the indulgence of society. Just saying. Bottom of the hour break. We'll get her done. When we come back, some people have some very short memories. We'll remind them of it when we come back. Continuing today's edition of the Clarence Bugg Show, only on the Pelican. Stay close.
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
You've waited, and now Toyotathon is here at Team Toyota. Every new Toyota is on sale with end-of-year savings. And with our Buy Here, Sell Here program, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade. The selection and savings are right here for you at Team Toyota, I-12 at O'Neill.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Hi, I am Dr. Farrell Frugier Jr., and I am a general dentist at Frugier Family Dentistry. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went to Catholic High School, LSU, and LSU School of Dentistry in New Orleans, where I received my DDS degree in 1986. I always have and will continue to be committed to continuing my education, to invest in technology which makes the diagnosis and delivery of dentistry more thorough, more comfortable, and more aesthetically pleasing. In our practice, we are here to serve the patients. We want to improve their quality of life and to develop relationships with our patients. In dentistry, we have a chance to impact lives on a daily basis, not just by doing dentistry, but by getting to know them and being a part of their life. We also believe in giving back to our community. So every year, we give back to the Greater Baton Rouge Food Bank, Toys for Tots, and Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Please stop by and visit our office. We would love to take care of you and your family.
Hi, I'm Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
And I'm Dr. Kay Siller with The Rocket Right Show.
We are two busy blondes on the go showing off life in Louisiana.
Watch us on Pelican Sports Network.
And Talk 107.3 FM. Check local listings for times.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
Welcome back to today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. You know, once you figure out how the mainstream media operates, you can glean almost as much from what they don't say as you can from what they do say. You know full well, not so very long ago, we were told about the ungodly number of individuals that are streaming across our southern border and being shipped all across the country. After the last influx of, quote, migrants, the Biden-Harris administration came under fire for the conditions in which these individuals were being housed. So what was their response? Well, they resorted to what's called the NTR, a notice to report. Here's how this works. When our facilities become overwhelmed because there's so many people crossing the border illegally, being held in immigration facilities, in an effort to ease the overcrowding, they release these folks, but they give them a, quote, notice to report. What this is as follows. We're going to let you in. You can go anywhere you want, but within 60 days of being released, you have to report to the nearest Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency to check in with them and know where you are and how you're doing. It is a policy based on, quote, the honor system. Only the federal government could come up with using the honor system for folks who have broken the law to get in here. You've come in here illegally, but I'm going to let you go if you promise to do the right thing. As of this morning, the Department of Homeland Security announcing we got 50,000 people, actually it's a little bit more than 50,000, that we don't know where they are. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean you don't know where they are? Well, we gave them the notice to report, thinking they would, honor, pardon the double entendre, the honor system. Fooled us again. 50 50,000 people. We have no idea where they are. I think it's a relatively safe assumption. We don't really know who they are. I mean, you give them a name when you come in. God only knows who that person is because you didn't vet them before you just let them off into the country. Do you start to see a pattern here? On one hand, they want to infringe upon your rights, your freedoms, your liberties in the inference of keeping us safe from COVID. And yet, hundreds of thousands of people let in, not tested, not vaccinated, and shipped all around the country, mostly in the dead of night, with no warning, no heads up to the governors, the mayors, the councils, to anybody. And rest assured, it's only because they were called on the carpet about this that they fessed up. 50,000 people. We have no idea where these folks are. But we gave them a notice to report. Yeah, how's that working out for you? But you know, it occurred to me, there is the possibility, just maybe, there's the possibility that these people just forgot. You know, you're in a brand new country, you're marveling at all the wonderful things that America has, and quite frankly, they just forgot that, you know, I signed this notice saying within 60 days I'll find an ICE office and I'll check in with them. And at the end of the day, I guess that could be, you know, a valid assumption. They just forgot. It's kind of like the Democrats and the filibuster. Apparently, Democrats know about the internet and how once something gets on the internet, it's pretty much there in perpetuity. You're going to hear, and you've already heard this week, the left railing about the filibuster. Oh my God, it's the most evil thing in America. We need to get rid of this because this is just, our democracy is at stake. But you know what's funny and very, very telling? The number of Democrats that up until very, very recently were railing against changing the filibuster. Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, all of them on record. Of course, like I said, they just forgot that they said these things, and it's on the internet for everybody to see. And it's not going to go away. Now, remember when you were a child and you lied to your parents about something? And the very next time you had the opportunity to choose between telling the truth or telling a lie, as it was getting ready to come up you typically would look at your parents' facial expressions. That would tell you whether or not you should vary from the truth. Of course, now, if you were one of those people, Democrats, that really don't care, well, that's a different ball game altogether. It is painful to watch my fellow Americans, particularly those who reside on the opposite side of the political aisle. It's painful to watch you being used by the people you have honored with your most precious constitutional right, your vote. They are going to tell us this week, and for as long as we will listen, relentlessly, how evil the filibuster is. Even though in the last year, the Democrats used it 376 times. But by God, we got to get rid of it because it's evil. What's the phrase we've coined? Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Of course, now, the saving grace in all of this is that they can only do it if you let them. That is why, my friends, I implore you to widen your horizons. If you are one of those that still worships at the altar of the mainstream media, expand your horizons. There's this marvelous new invention, same one these other Democrats have not heard about, called the internet. You can get opinions, ideas, philosophies across the entire political spectrum, not just what the mainstream media wants you to have. But you got to want it, y'all. You have to want, as an American, to know the truth. Because believe it or not, good or bad, right or wrong, fair or otherwise, you can no longer trust these folks to tell you the truth. If you do, well, you deserve what you get. Final break of today's show. We'll get her done and take a look at just when you thought we'd made all this progress, enter Whoopi Goldberg. You got to hear this one. That's next when we come back on today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show, only on the Pelican. Stay close.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats. The flavor says it all.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreysstoneCountryClub.com.
The Post on Church Point Road in Gonzales would like to invite everyone to their newly renovated events hall, a beautiful 9,600 square foot facility that features a 5,500 square foot main hall and a separate 600 square foot conference room. Renters have access to our huge kitchen, large stage, tables, chairs, bar, and covered outdoor cooking. So plan your next wedding, party, conference, and more at The Post on Church Point Road, Gonzales.
Tremonti's has meat, Tremonti's has seafood, Tremonti's has much more. Tailgating and home gating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tremontes.com.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. At Private Healthcare, we provide the peace of mind you deserve. With Private Healthcare, you'll get the coverage you want and healthcare you need. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private Healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. When life comes at you unexpectedly, you need to be ready. And health insurance is your financial safety net. Health insurance has never been so easy and affordable. If you're looking for health coverage at the best price and your annual household income is $35,000 or more, call the number on the screen now and speak with a live healthcare consultant. Don't wait. Get the coverage you need now.
Welcome back to the final segment of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. If you are like me as an American, you're pained by the constant, incessant rehashing of race in America. It is disheartening to watch the number of people who engage actively in race baiting. To listen to some people in this country, ironically, many of whom have benefited from our country's attempts at coming together over race. These individuals are the biggest race pimps out there. I have resigned myself to the fact that I hope in the near future we are able to come to terms with race in America. But I also understand full well that like anything else that has the potential to yield power, influence, or dollars, there will always be someone eager to play the race card. It's disheartening on one hand, but on the other, when I talk to my fellow Americans, and this subject inevitably arises, I come to the realization that more and more everyday Americans are waking up to this fact. Depending upon the individual group of people, institutions that you talk to about it, some would have you believe that even though we elected twice a black man as the leader of the free world, even though there is now a woman of color as the second most powerful person on the planet, even though we have removed the vestiges of integration, even though we have all rights for all people, there are still those out there that will tell whoever will listen that we are worse now than we've ever been. Enter the illustrious, and I use that term very loosely, Whoopi Goldberg, on ABC's The View this week. Whoopi Goldberg was discussing voting rights with Chuck Schumer, and she said the following, quote, "You vowed to call for a vote on major voting rights legislation in time for Martin Luther King Day next week. I want to ask you this because it's irritating me to the nth degree. Why are we still talking about my right as an American to vote? I still feel like suddenly black people still are where we were under the Emancipation Proclamation. Why are we still fighting this way? What's going to change?" And of course, Chuck Schumer, being the good Democrat halfback that he is, knows when the quarterback sticks that ball right in there for you, you got to take that ball and run with it. Chuck Schumer's response, quote, "You're 100% right. And it's not just staying the same, it's going to get worse if we don't do something. What happened is this. Donald Trump spread the big lie that the election was fraudulent. Of course, it wasn't. He had no evidence, but state legislatures, only Republicans, very partisan, no Democrats, are now making it harder for people to vote based on that false big lie that the election was fraudulent. But they're not timing it, they're not aiming it at everybody. They're aiming it at people of color. They're aiming it at poor people. They're aiming it at students. They're aiming it at the elderly. They're aiming it at the disabled." End of quote. So let me get this straight. People that look like me can now vote, own property, own a business, buy a house where I want, marry who I want, get an education, the whole nine. But Whoopi Goldberg says in this country, black people are still where they were during the Emancipation Proclamation. You know, I don't know what's scarier. The fact that Whoopi Goldberg believes people will believe her, or what may be scarier still, some will. I understand being too close to the forest to see the trees. I get that. But when a freaking redwood falls and knocks you upside the head, common sense should tell you I must be in the woods. Name me one single thing that I cannot do in this country because of the color of my skin. Just one. That's all. I'm not asking for 2, 3, 4. I don't need a litany of things. Just tell me one. Now, I can tell you a whole lot of things that I can do today that I couldn't do back then. And yet, what the mainstream media won't tell you, Washington Post did a survey. Exact same question on the exact same issue, just in different years. Here's what worshiping at the altar of the mainstream media, where it will leave you lacking. What the media won't tell you, despite what Chuck Schumer just said about Donald Trump was spreading a big lie, their survey showed more people thought Donald Trump's win was illegitimate than thought Joe Biden's win was illegitimate. You see how they play you? Oh, he trying to tear down democracy. Oh, he trying to destroy the republic. He ain't got no proof. But they engage in the exact same thing, except they do it to a larger degree. Same old playbook, huh? Of course, now, the good news in all of this is that these clowns can only get away with this if you allow it. And the only way it happens is if you make a conscious decision to stay within the narrow confines of what they want you to know. I have a dear friend, liberal. I call him my favorite liberal. And when we talk about things, he'll say, well, I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know this. When did that happen? And I tell him religiously, well, if you weren't watching CNN, you'd know about this. I'm sorry, CNN LOL, you'd know about this. If you weren't so busy watching MSLSD, you'd know about this. Now listen, y'all, I understand. For many of you, it's not comfortable. For many of you, finding out that these people have been lying to you to your face is embarrassing and it makes you mad. But once you come to that realization and wake up and decide, you know what, I'm not going to ever let this kind of crap happen to me again, the freedom that you will experience is beyond measure. I dare you, try it and prove me wrong. My time's up, y'all, and I gotta go. But this day, just like every other, I give it to you. You know what? You're right. America, we ain't perfect. But for this old boy's money, it's still the best there is. And God knows there is no place else on his green earth that I'd rather be. Speaking of the good Lord, you realize he loves you, right? And I hope you know that I do too. Either way, there ain't a doggone thing you can do about either one. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless.